Welcome, guys. It's episode 2 of Bad Movie Rules. I'm your host, James Hauser. I'm here. I'm back with Clint Bush. Back again, and joining us is our new host, Brady Cox, all the way from Omaha, Nebraska. Guys, all I wanted was a cappuccino. Well, we got to do this podcast. Let's go. We're doing Hudson Hawk. All right, guys, this is time. It's finally time. I say finally, it's only the second episode. But Brady, let's kick things off, man. You wanted to do Hudson Hawk. Why don't you get us rolling?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a very underrated movie, even if some of you may disagree. But so
we have never disagreed, Brady. You and I, ever.
Never. That has never happened since I've in the 40 some odd years that I've known you. No. It's at least 35.
Yeah.
Which makes us sound much older than we actually are. So we should probably keep that to ourselves.
Right. You've known each other since you were 2 months old.
Babies. We was babies.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was taking notes on this movie, and I was just like, why don't I just live tweet it? So I did, which is fine because nobody follows me on Twitter and nobody saw it. Just me.
You can follow Brady at Theoretical Funk on Twitter right now. So Brady, do you remember the first? Do you remember the first time you saw Hudson Hawk? What's your Hudson Hawk story?
I do not remember it. I may have been at your house.
You were at my house. That's why I was asking if you remembered it, dude. We were in middle school.
So many.
It was either 6th or 7th grade. This was 1991, so I think 6th grade probably. And yeah, you were at my house watching Hudson Hawk.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, so it's amazing that I remember that.
It must have been really crappy weather out if that's what you guys decided to do instead of anything
Listen,
else.
we got it turned up in 6th grade. I don't know. We were doing some fun things.
Yeah, I remember the movie didn't do well.
No,
and I remember that, but it didn't matter. We were in 6th grade. It was like probably summer vacation, and we didn't have anything to do. There's no internet.
No.
So like we can like go outside and like find some sticks to, bang together, or we can watch movies and stuff.
While it was light out, we spent a lot of time outside. But man, was there anything better than like, all right, it's 8:00. Dad's driving us to Blockbuster. We get to pick out 2 or 3 movies, spend an hour there trying to figure out what we're going to get, right? And then bringing your pile of movies home and diving in.
For all the kids, what is a Blockbuster?
See, there used to be these retail stores where you could go in and they had 1,000 movies and you could just take one home and then pay $20 in late fees when you didn't bring it back the next day.
So it's like a virtual Redbox then, or like an actual Redbox.
It's like Netflix, but with a lot more work.
Yeah, it's a Redbox you can walk inside.
Yeah, exactly. It's sad that someday people won't have a clue what we're talking about.
There's one left still.
That's right.
Yeah, there is one left. Mm-hmm. Well, at least, according to that documentary. So who knows if it's still there.
Well, let me give you guys some of the vitals on this movie. So this movie was directed by Michael Lehman, who really the only thing of note he had before this was Heathers. I don't know if either of you have ever seen Heathers, but I don't know.
I own it on DVD and Blu-ray.
Well, there you go. So I don't know what about Heathers screamed action comedy director to the people that were hiring for this movie, but he got the job, and it was written, funny enough, Clint, by Steven D'Souza, who wrote Street Fighter. So unintentionally, we've become the Steven D'Souza podcast because in our 2 episodes, we've got 2 movies written by him, and Bruce Willis shared a screenwriting credit, the only movie in his career he had anything to do with screenwriting wise. And
interesting.
Yeah. And I would say it's written by Steven D'Souza barely because apparently there's a whole writing fiasco here because in looking at interviews from some of the cast, Bruce was essentially rewriting the movie on the fly. Every time they're shooting a scene, he kept changing things, and it was a very frustrating experience for the actors. So he was constantly rewriting and changing dialogue. So I'd say more written by Bruce Willis than anybody else.
I can buy that.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And sad because it did so poorly because I would like more of this.
And so here's the cast. It goes Bruce Willis, is it Aiello? I always feel like I'm saying it wrong. Danny Aiello, Andy McDowell, correct. And then the big bads were Richard Durant, as I said.
Andy McDowell.
Yeah.
Anybody else got that? She was always a gorgeous woman thing going on.
Oh my God.
She still looks great.
Like for eons and forever.
I've got this. Go ahead, Brady.
before Groundhog Day. This was before Groundhog Day. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that was 93.
her big kind of breakout was Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and then she was kind of the it girl and started getting a bunch of other parts. Yeah, and she was famously dubbed in her first movie. She was in Tarzan with Chris Lambert playing Tarzan, and she's from South Carolina. She's a Southern girl, and they hired her to play this like British aristocrat, and she did so bad with the accent that Glenn Close came in and dubbed all of her lines. So in Andy McDowell's first movie,
She didn't speak.
it's not even her voice, and she thought her career was over after that point. But
Yeah, it's her and Schwarzenegger.
oh, that's right. Yeah, Hercules in New York.
Right.
And then Sandra Bernhardt's the other one I missed. She's the other big bad there as well, and we'll get into her performance.
Will we?
We
Later.
definitely need to talk about her role in this movie.
But we talked about where Steven was at the time. This is Bruce Willis, and I think this kind of plays into why it bombed. Bruce at this point had done Die Hard 1 and 2. 2 had just come out the year before, and a couple of other smaller dramatic roles, but I think everybody thought this movie was going to be Die Hard 3.
We touched on this a little bit in the last one, but you get this expectation of what an actor is going to do. Like, legitimately, you're watching a movie back in these days because of the actors on it, because you've got a poster.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you didn't even see the commercial on TV. That's right. We had commercials live on TV before for movies as well, that would actually draw you with, a couple seconds of what's going on in the movie. And you had to decide whether you wanted to go to Blockbuster for an hour and choose it or not.
And sometimes all you had was the poster, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
if you hadn't
Or
seen
the
the
movie
preview,
box cover.
right? You go, what is this? I haven't seen a trailer for this. I don't know. It's Bruce Willis swinging on a rope. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
I
can this
just
fail?
remember there was a point in my life where every weekend, rain or shine, didn't matter. I would end up at the movie theater,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd look at the posters on the wall and go, that one.
Yeah.
And we just went to go see movies. It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah, that's how I ended up seeing Breakdown, that Kurt Russell movie, because it was just Kurt Russell's face on a poster. This was a Gurney Mills theater, and it was just his face. It said Breakdown. I went, I like Kurt Russell. Guess this is what we're watching today. And it was great. I miss that in general.
Yeah, I do miss that. Yeah, just walking up and not knowing anything about any of the movies.
Right. Now I feel like you know everything about a movie 3 years before it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the marketing didn't help this movie either, because I did go back on YouTube and watch the trailer. They marketed it like it was going to be Die Hard 3 also.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was like they focused on all the action beats. The catchphrase was "Catch the Hawk," right? I mean, it looked like it was going to be an action movie. So, of course, people were confused, I feel like, when they went to actually see it.
This movie should have been a cat burglar, like a Pink Panther type of Bruce Willis starring, thriller type movie.
If it had been marketed as an
Comedy
action,
musical.
yeah, kind of a comedy musical action buddy. You know why it's so hard to put this movie into a genre is because I don't even think the movie understands what kind of movie it wants to be.
Right.
I mean, there's parts of it where it's slapstick comedy, it's Zucker Brothers, it's like they're almost acting like cartoons.
Right. That's what I was going to put up later is like the fight scenes are legitimately fake cartoon fight back and forth. Like they're drawn 2 frames at a time.
Right. And then
just swapped back and forth.
But then in other parts of the movie, they're dropping MFers and cutting people's heads off. And it's like, okay, is this a hard action movie or is it, what do you think, Brady?
Yeah, the amount of Three Stooges bits is just amazing. And I love it. And I kind of think, like, I knew the tone of the movie as soon as, are we going to get into scenes now, or are we just talking general?
No, well, we're almost done with general stuff. Yeah, go ahead. General
stuff, yes. Thank you. He was a dear friend of mine in the Army. Anyway, I got off track there. Yeah, it's Three Stooges bits, but so they're on the roof at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to do this heist. He throws the life preserver over to the other building.
Yeah.
And it lands where it's supposed to land. It goes ding. Like is that a Foley artist, the guy that adds the sound effects later?
Yes.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah, well,
So,
it might have been looped, but yeah.
Yeah, whoever did that, the editing and just beautiful job. Like as soon as you get that, like you should know what you've signed up for in this movie. Like, oh,
Yeah, I think even before that, like when they do the storybook opening, right, and a guy falls off a donkey before the opening credits are over, it kind of says, all right, don't take this movie seriously. But then
that's just a guy on a donkey.
That's just a guy on a donkey.
There's other parts of the movie where it tries to be something different too, which is why I think it's confusing. We'll get into that. So there's one other thing I want to mention before we kind of go through the beats of the movie itself. Was a casting fiasco, right? So there's two things from a casting standpoint that I think also hurt this movie. Now, I know I'm probably sounding pretty critical. I do enjoy this movie once I understood what it was, right? And like changed my expectations. I do enjoy watching it because it's just totally insane. And so I enjoy it on those merits, right? On its own. But here's two other things casting wise. So Andie MacDowell was a last minute replacement. Right? They had already 3 or 4 days into shooting and they brought her on to replace whoever it was. I think personally she's miscast. I love Andie MacDowell. I don't know if in this part she's really the right person for that role. So I think that also hurts the movie. I don't think there's a ton of chemistry personally between her and Bruce Willis. But the even bigger thing, and this kind of goes into maybe why Bruce has never done any more writing, because he made a pretty terrible decision here. Originally it was going to be a one bad guy, Mr. Mayflower, the guy that Richard E. Grant played, right? And then it turned out they were thinking about casting Audrey Hepburn from Breakfast at Tiffany's and all these other incredible
Golden Pond.
Oh yeah, well that's
the other one, yeah,
Catherine. But Audrey, old Hollywood. I think that could have been maybe really cool to see her in there because she didn't play a lot of villains, right? So what happened was, when they couldn't get Audrey Hepburn, Bruce goes, well, why don't we just keep both parts, because we changed it to a girl, and have it be a couple, a guy and a girl. And then they cast Sandra Bernhard. I don't know. There might not be a bigger drop-off in the history of movies going from Audrey Hepburn to Sandra Bernhard. That's a drop you wouldn't survive if you stepped off of it, okay?
But she did have the power.
Well, right. And I will say, without Sandra Bernhard, we might not be talking about this movie at all.
Really?
Interesting.
Just because
I thought she was a detractor from the movie, making it not as good as it would have been without.
Wow.
I think it makes it that much more zany.
I'll buy that.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's memorable, right? Because like without her, like, does the rest really work? I argue maybe not.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into it. We already talked about how the movie starts off with, like, it's the Princess Bride or something, right? Going into the storybook and then talking about Leonardo da Vinci. But then the first time we see Hawk, he's in jail or coming out of jail, right?
Yes.
And his parole officer is pitching him on a job while they're still in the jail.
Yeah, he hasn't even walked out the first set of locked doors yet.
Right. Yeah, there's still like screaming inmates.
Right.
Like,
right.
Like, who can hear all this?
Right. Does anyone work there?
I want to mention.
Yes.
I want to get into this because it just stuck out to me at the beginning, like before this conversation. He goes to the prison clerk, to get his stuff back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the prison clerk has these horrendous teeth. This is horrendous. And I'm just like, I was like, is this guy just trying really hard? And so I looked him up. His name is P. I'm going to get his name wrong, but I think it's P. Philip Bowers or something like that. I really don't want to get it wrong, but I'm just going to go with that for right now. But anyway, I looked him up. He's only in 5 things. The first thing is Moonlighting with Bruce Willis, and the next 4 are all with Bruce Willis, and this is the last thing he ever did. So I contacted him on Twitter. And I said,
how much time did you spend on Teeth Guy from the jail?
I was just because I was.
He's an opening scene character.
Okay,
at
all
that
right.
point, he's really important to the movie.
And the teeth just stood out to me, and I was just like, this had to have been like a bigger character that they left on the cutting room floor.
Okay.
And I contacted this guy, and he responded, and he said, yes, this was a much larger part. And all you see is, and he's just like, so why did you contact me? I was like, because of the teeth. And he's like, what part of this zany movie like stood out to you with the teeth? And I was like, I don't know. It's right off the top, and it just seemed like a lot of prosthetics. If I'm prosthetic,
Yes.
I'm saying that wrong, but whatever. It's funny. It's a lot of work to go through just for 5 seconds of here you go, Mr. Hawk.
I feel like you are personally 3 minutes into this movie at this point, and you've already got 6 hours worth of work tied up into this. This must have taken you a month to do the research for this conversation. Very prepared.
No, dude, like, because I'm like tweeting this guy while the movie is going on.
I rewatched it last night. Well, this morning.
Yeah.
After racing.
Are you guys friends? Are you friends with the teeth guy now?
No, we've been introduced. How's that?
Okay.
We're
no mutual following yet.
He wasn't gonna call in for the second or the third spot on this.
Yeah, let's get him on the phone right now. Teeth guy. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. I'll get his phone number. But no, I'm not. It just stood out to me.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's watched this movie 100 times, like it just the first time I ever saw it, I was like, well, not the first time I ever saw it, but like this time I saw it, and I was like, it was like the first time I ever saw it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind
I
of
understand what you're saying too, with that being a role that had to have been something else. Because I mean, look, we've got Kit Kat and Almond Joy and Butterfinger. I mean, we've got some really, really amazing bad guys in this movie. So it's like he should have come back somewhere later.
Yeah. And like you said, all that work to put into a little gag like that kind of, to me, sums up the comedy writing in this entire movie.
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
So
but I just wanted to talk about that, and that you can cut the entire bit if you want.
I won't. I like Teeth Guy. Teeth Guy stays in. Are you kidding me?
We're going to actually do another half hour about Teeth Guy specifically.
He had to have been Bruce Willis's drinking buddy or something if all he ever did was Bruce Willis's movies.
That was my guess, and I did not have the balls to ask him that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So he gets out of prison, and essentially we're into the first big set piece, which is his first robbery with him and Danny Aiello, right? And
you want to talk about the bar?
Oh, you want to talk about the bar when somebody probably got killed by that stray bullet that broke his cappuccino?
No, it hit the cappuccino cup and completely just evaporated after that. It didn't do anything. It didn't hit the mirror behind the bar, any of the bottles. It just done.
Right. And nobody blinked an eye in the whole place.
Well, it was a silencer, of course.
Right. Because that's how silencers work also.
Absolutely. They're silent.
Right. And I wrote down gentrification wasn't named in 91, but it happened. Because the whole bar scene is gentrification happening, right?
Right.
And then he's talking about what was it Captain Bob's steering wheel?
Yep, Captain Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, and who are all these yuppies and where's all the regulars, right?
Yep.
Right. And then we're introduced to the Mario Brothers as well, which is a bold choice for 91 to call them the Mario Brothers.
They put so much Nintendo jokes in this movie.
True story. Would you play Nintendo with me?
I think
I can't think of anybody else.
It's almost like Bruce Willis was in the writer's room going, all right, guys, what's cool? What are the kids doing right now? We got to put some of that stuff in here.
They're playing Nintendo and eating candy bars, obviously.
Well,
obviously.
So he's been in prison. He doesn't know what Nintendo is, right?
Right. That was a good joke. And if you had left it there, right, bring up something topical that he wouldn't know about. Ha, funny joke. But then they lean into it even more.
Let's talk about cappuccino.
Okay.
For a second.
That's all I wanted. Because cappuccino.
Mm-hmm.
Had the perfect amount of foam.
That's the running joke.
Yep.
In the movie is the cappuccino. He can't get a cappuccino to save his life, right?
Right.
And that's literal in this movie. He can't get the cappuccino to save his life. But here's the thing: it's 1991. There were no Starbucks.
Right.
Or
maybe there were in Seattle at this point.
That's what made it difficult. Yeah.
Right.
None of us had ever heard of a cappuccino before.
No, I remember wondering what the heck that was when I saw it.
Right. And I remember at some point watching
joke.
like a behind the scenes or whatever, and they were worried about that. They were super worried about that like people wouldn't understand what a cappuccino was. And I think it was like 92 or 93. Everybody knew what a cappuccino was.
Wait, are you saying Hudson Hawk is responsible for Starbucks?
For the popularity of the cappuccino.
I'm not saying that they're responsible. I'm saying that it just was this weird coincidence that that was happening. in the world at the time, right?
Right.
But I think it's important to explain to the folks that weren't around in 91 that
Right.
like cappuccino did not exist in the continental United States.
No. Hold on. There was so much
at the
less information sharing. Cappuccino did not exist in Antioch, Illinois.
Right.
That's as far as our scope of knowledge at the time reached.
I'm saying they were saying like test audiences in LA, were
That's Louisiana, everybody.
They had not heard of cappuccino at the time, so it wasn't just like a Midwestern, you're in the flyover country,
Right.
situation. It was just as Americans we didn't, that wasn't a thing that we did at the time. You got your 29 cents of bottomless coffee at the 24-hour diner, and that's what you did.
Right. You had your Folgers. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to lean in and say that Hudson Hawk is responsible for the popularity of cappuccino
Worldwide. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what?
I'm in for that.
It's time to give this movie its due. All right. Maybe it didn't work so well as a movie, but it's selling coffee. Man, it's unparalleled.
That's a good point.
Also, I would like to say when he broke that bottle over the guy's head in the bar, everybody stopped, but nobody blinked an eye when they shot a cup.
Well, it was silencer.
Right.
It was just a broken cup.
It was
There was no gun.
Yeah.
I know. I don't buy it.
Because the bullet magically disappeared.
Right.
Because
Nobody knew it
again,
happened.
this whole thing is a cartoon.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's it.
That is
Until it's not a cartoon, and then
Yeah.
It's a cartoon.
But that's how cartoons work, right? Everything's
Yeah.
like super like
I
silly
suppose.
until it's not.
So, you want to get into the robbery now? Is that cool?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
So-
that's fine.
I want to say this because the first robbery scene where they're trying to steal the horse from the auction house, right? Where they're singing, everyone's got to have a bit, right? And so their bit, Hudson Hawk's bit, that he knows how long every song is, right?
And they sing in perfect time.
That's the way they time out their robbery, right? I would have watched the crap out of this movie if this had been the whole movie.
Yep.
It was a buddy comedy, an action comedy with these two guys pulling off heists and singing songs.
Pink Panther-esque, just cat burglars singing songs back and forth and going about their business.
Yeah.
Evading capture would be absolutely amazing.
Right, because to me, the best parts of the movie are this and side by side at the end when they're, doing the rescue mission. And I don't know.
Right.
I think they were so wrong because at this point there was such good chemistry. There was more chemistry between him and Danny than there was between him and Andy McDowell. And then you take him away. He's gone for the entire middle part of the movie.
Yeah.
You don't come back together till the end. I think that was a huge mistake to separate them for almost the whole movie.
Yeah. But
scheduling
the
conflict.
script is written before these people show up. So
Right. Well, and apparently while they're shooting it too.
well, yeah, that's a good point.
In this one. And here's a question I'll pose to you guys, and whoever wants to can take it. Is Hawk actually a terrible thief?
I mean, he was in prison, right? I would have to
caught a lot.
assume he was not good at it.
Well, not only that, but
I mean, he was fantastic at all of the skills that it
Okay.
requires to be a thief, but obviously
Correct.
not at finishing the job.
Correct. Yeah, he's phenomenal at all the skills. And they show that several times throughout the movie.
right. I mean, they botch the auction house because they get the guards. They have the chair and the camera there, right? And then they're running from the guards and they see their faces. They're not even wearing masks. And then when he tries to rob the Vatican, he barely gets away. He has to jump onto a truck because he's got a guard right on his heels there too. And his plan was to purposefully alert the guards, right? He waited they came in so he could pull the thing on the fishing line and the guy would get caught and the alarm would go off. So he purposely set it off. It just doesn't seem like a great thief.
Well, I think actually, if you look into that, I think he did that so that when the next guard comes in and he's escaping out of the ceiling, he's supposed to see, hey, we've got him caught in the cage. Ha, ha, ha. But no, he looks and sees him.
You were going to say something, Brady. Sorry.
It's just all of these plans are half-assed, if you've noticed. Like,
well, this happened in like a day and a half.
The first one with Danny and him, and they go into the room with the VHS. Hudson Hawk doesn't know what the plan is at this point, and obviously this was done, for plot and timing or whatever. But he doesn't know what the hell's going on. Like Danny's like, oh, we're gonna use these video recorders to mess with these guards. Like They don't know the plan. Like they're up on the roof, and he's just like, they throw the thing over and they climb over, and then he throws it back and like, what are you doing? I'm covering our tracks. It's like,
right. They don't even.
Aren't you glad we covered our tracks?
They don't even know where they're coming in and exiting or any of that. So that's all got to be planned in advance, right?
Right. And both people should be on the same page, right? Like plan it out ahead of time. Like, don't just show up and go, we're just gonna throw olive oil on the ground. Like,
and even if they didn't have like days to plan, I feel like with a 45-minute powwow, they could at least work out where we're going in and how we're getting out.
Right. I mean, 45 minutes I think is long for that. But
right.
I think we could have come up with the hey, what if we alert the guards? Let's go ahead and leave this rope here for us to get out.
Right. Perfect. I think it's funny to me that he made this movie, and this is apparently a what I would call a vanity project, right? This is something Bruce had dreamed up while he was still a bartender. This cat burglar who's like a cool dude who drinks cappuccino and robs these places, and I just think it's funny that that's the whole point, is how great he is. Everybody, the CIA, these bad guys, they all want him, and he actually stinks at it.
Can't put together the full performance.
No. I think.
But here's the thing: like he's the best guy that they know about, because the people that are the best at it never get caught.
Right? How do you contact somebody you don't know who they are?
That's true.
You got to go with the best failure.
So he's just the best failure. I think that makes more sense.
Yeah.
It's like they have a scouting report. It's like the draft, and they go in and they look at or like the combine more. His skills are really, really high, but he's never had that championship season, and they're just betting on improvement in performance.
There you go.
Yeah, and that's why we don't have heist movies anymore. Ever since they put the salary cap in.
I will say this: they end this robbery with, to me, one of the most jarring edits in movie history, where they're falling off of the roof. They go through the canopy, and then he lands in a chair in somebody's living room. And every time I know it's coming, and every time I like, whoa, it's so jarring.
So that living room was not in the tent?
In the sidewalk?
I thought that was just like right there out on the street.
No, it's not in the sidewalk.
There are so many edits in this movie like that, where it's just like, remember like the state, like for for people who are younger, the state was a comedy sketch show.
Mm-hmm.
And so between this, they'd have a sketch about a horse, and then they have a sketch about running through the park, and they would have these interstitials like to try to like bridge these two sketches together. There's a lot of edits in this movie that are exactly like that, where it's just like,
and now for something completely different.
Exactly like that. And this is the first of those. But there's plenty of others in this movie that I remember like this last time I watched it, I was like, oh, that's a theme. We keep doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I agree. I just feel like with that type of thing, and I can mention a few others, there's parts of this movie that just feel like, I don't know, almost like a fever dream, like just surreal, right? Like, it's I mean, there's that one, but then like,
you got to think everywhere that happened. Teeth guy is there before he pissed off somebody in editing. He's there.
That's why the movie doesn't make any sense.
And they just got cut because forget about that guy.
That's why the movie doesn't make any sense, because they cut out Teeth Guy. He's the missing pieces that makes all of this work.
This is a long job. They're waiting for somebody to do a podcast of this and review the movie harshly, and then they're going to release the Teeth Guy cut. Re-edit.
All right, we're going to start a hashtag on Twitter, release the Teeth Guy cut for Hudson Hawk. And we'll see how many people we can get.
Release the teeth.
That's right. Well, okay, so the other one I thought of is, as far as just like surreal fever dream, right? That just doesn't make sense in the reality they created in this movie, is when he's on the gurney flying down the road after he fell out of the ambulance, and this girl's just like, hey man, so like, are you going to die? Like, is this reality? What is this?
He's driving a gurney down the road with incredible skill. Yes. And tosses change with ridiculous accuracy.
Yes.
I just remember like that scene with the girl being like, this is so very early 90s, like late 80s, early 90s, like attitude.
Yes.
You're gonna die.
Right, but
Like, hey.
she's just like having a casual conversation with him. Even her tone and how she asks the question. It's just like, oh, hey, what's up, man? You think you're going to die? It's almost like, it's like he's having a dream. That's to me how it plays. To say nothing of the fact that the gurney at one point is faster than the ambulance.
Absolutely. The ambulance also directly rear-ends somebody, and then the split second later is absolutely mint condition on the front going around the same car that they rear-ended.
Right. And the gurney ends up in front of it. And although I will say about this bit that I thought all the needles in the guy's face was fantastic. That was hilarious.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. That was one of the ones that actually worked, I feel like. But there's other stuff that's just crazy.
And we can start talking about how some of the special effects in this movie aren't so special. Like the ambulance that, when it goes to explode, it explodes before it hits anything.
Yeah, so what is it about an ambulance that makes it explode into a fireball when...
Oxygen tanks, obviously.
Obviously. But it didn't hit anything. There. I mean, it just was in the air.
Yeah. It's in the air, it explodes, and then it hits something. So, like, that it was supposed to
they didn't have enough budget to reshoot that.
Right.
But
because all the overruns on Teeth Guys scenes.
It supports the fever dream thing as well. The fever dream, theory, that it's kind of like the end of American Psycho, where you're just like, you know what I mean? They just shot 3 bullets at that car and they exploded. What's going on? This is weird.
Right. And I think the best special effects in the movie was the little light bulb they put by the crucifix every time they used it as a walkie-talkie. What is happening in this movie?
Like the first time that happens, it's hilarious. And then the second time is one of the best lines in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to get into
Go ahead. Go ahead. Which one?
Catholic girls are scary.
I find that to be true.
That's
actually.
Right. We knew a lot of them. Well, at least I don't know. Did you go to Catholic school, Brady?
I did not go to. I'm not Catholic, but where I live now, there's way more Catholic people here than where we're from.
Now, Clint
everybody from where we came from was Catholic, except for you.
Clint and I, in our former life, were both altar boys together. Did you ever go to St. Peter's though?
Like I didn't go to St. Peter's in school. I did, Saturdays. And
Got it. I actually went to St. Peter's into 5th grade, through part of 5th grade before I went to Petty. But
and then your life changed.
And then my life changed, and I met Clint Bush, and we actually got in trouble. The old ladies used to yell at us because we'd be farting around too much in during the service. So
whipping each other with the ropes that held our robes together.
Yeah, we're very distracting.
Yeah.
All right, so
we were very bored. I mean, it was an entire week of 5 a.m. masses. It was ridiculous.
Some other surreal bits that I put down here. After the crucifix walkie-talkie, you've got an entire boardroom of people sitting around a table watching Sandra Bernhardt sing a Tina Turner song.
Absolutely.
Right?
Fantastic. I mean,
there's like a little
on rendition as well.
There's like a little kid, like a Middle Eastern little kid sitting there. I don't know who he is. How long have they been there? How long have they been sitting here listening to her? Because that's all that's happening.
This scene starts with like this building, and there's a big M in front of it.
Mugatu,
and then they go inside to this boardroom, and I was just thinking, like, okay, first off, this makes me think of Zoolander and Mugatu.
Awesome.
The second thing it made me think of was like Austin Powers.
Oh yeah.
They got the boardroom of like all these evil people,
henchmen,
and then when they bring him in and they cuff him, they use that musical device or whatever, which I believe that music comes from The Saint. Like the original Saint, like with James Bond dude, not Val Kilmer.
Yeah,
I believe that's where it comes from. It comes from In Like Flint.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Which is James Coburn, who is also in this movie.
Right.
But they use that music, which also, if you ever watch Austin Powers, they use that same thing as well. So it's just kind of weird. I kind of wonder if this was somewhat of an inspiration for Austin Powers in some way, shape, or form.
It's possible. But Brady, how long do you think those people were sitting there listening to her sing? Because in my head, it's like... Go ahead. Sorry.
The song is probably maybe... I'm just going to pull a number out of my ass of 3 minutes and 44 seconds.
Yeah. I was going to say
we
3.5
could have
minutes
asked,
long, and she wasn't done yet, so not longer
we could have
than
asked
3
Hudson
minutes.
Hawk, he would have known.
I feel like she had flipped the cassette and they had been in there for a while.
Like she started at the
point.
beginning and was on track 7.
Right. That's what I'm
She
saying.
had like an entire loop of that, like the whole
Just
90
that,
minutes
yeah.
on that side.
Right. Absolutely. I guess now is as good a time as any to talk about Sandra Bernhard and Richard E. Grant's performances as the Mayflowers. If you can call it that.
They were the best portrayal of the Mayflowers. That's
true.
movie.
No one's ever played that part better.
Right. Best.
I wrote down that if you couldn't create a better role for Sandra Bernhard, this is the one she was born to play.
Is that a compliment though?
Her legitimate physical attributes and like her actual throwing herself into the, I don't want to say the word obnoxious, but the obnoxiousness of the character, they worked out so perfectly together. I still didn't like it.
Here's what I'll say. It's enjoyable for how bad it is. That's what I enjoy Richard and Sandra's performances because they're so terrible. So it's not as they intended, I feel like, but it's still enjoyable to me. I know Brady, you weren't with us, but the last time we talked about Street Fighter, which was written by the same guy, right? And Raul Julia played an over-the-top villain in that movie, right? And went for it 110%, right? And I would say that Richard Grant and Sandra are also going for it.
Absolutely.
The difference, I think, between why one of those was amazing and really worked and one of them, the other two didn't, is because Raul took it seriously, and these guys are just kind of mugging the whole time. Do you know what I mean?
Good point. But I think for the tone of this movie, they needed to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think it works as well if like there's actual menace. Like I never felt menace in this movie. I always felt like these guys are bad people because I don't know, for comedic reasons.
They didn't have anything else to do that day.
Well, they tried to put some menace in there. I think they just failed at it. I mean, when they brought Ig and Ook in, right, and they're like, well, I guess we're just going to have to kill them, and then they just kill them. Can
we talk about how they die?
Yeah, go for it. It's one of the best jokes in the whole movie.
It is. Like, they get shot, Ig, Ook.
Right.
Oh, God, such a good joke.
It is. It is. They made the noises that Bruce Willis named them, which is kind of amazing. Actually, but again,
foreshadowing
leans into the cartoony, surreal nature of the movie.
Right. And so in the car, so Richard's in the car, and he gets a fax, and he immediately shreds it, and then it just shreds like right out the back of the car.
Yeah, right out the top of the quarter panel.
I'm immediately reminded of another Bruce Willis movie, Zorg from The Fifth Element. Like, it just has a very Zorg feeling.
Oh,
to
yeah. No, you're right. I'd say that's good.
Yeah.
But this is, and I'm glad you brought up the fact scene, because this is what I call the Steven D'Souza effect. He's a good writer, and sometimes he's not. But he did this in Street Fighter also. He basically has a character at one point say, I'm the good guy, or I'm the bad guy, right? And that's literally what he does in that scene. He goes, what can I say? I'm the villain, right? And
definition, here I am.
Now I want to watch the rest of D'Souza's movies and see if he does that in every single one of them. Because you remember we talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
in 2 different podcasts now.
Right. So the other thing I want to say, since we're talking about bad guys, if you want to get into the candy bars, Butterfinger is my favorite candy bar.
Absolutely. His coat caught in the porta potty.
The porta-john.
That was great.
Yeah, but he does.
And in that same scene, so okay, we're introduced to the candy bars at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they all come out in their own way. What does Almond Joy come out of?
I'm trying to remember. What does she come out of?
That green. It's like that green pole, and there's like rivets on it.
Is that like a sewer pipe from Mario?
It's another Nintendo joke.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know what that is. Like, and I remember thinking that when I was first watching it years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this last time when I watched it, I was like, I still don't know what that is.
We'll talk in a few minutes as a separate topic about one-liners, because I think that's a big part of this movie. But I think one of the ones that really works well is Butterfinger's introduction, is Bruce's response.
That's like, it's one of the better lines in the movie.
Right. But can I talk for a second though, about this? He's got maybe the worst joke in the movie, and one that I absolutely don't understand, when the candy bars are sitting there surveilling them at one point, and out of nowhere, Butterfinger just says, "Do you want me to rape them?"
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching that. I was like, wow, that's wow.
Just read your book, Butterfinger.
Just apropos of nothing, right? He just like, I don't know, you want me to go upstairs and rape him? Who wrote that, and why is that a joke in this movie?
First off, for whatever reason, I find that hilarious, but I think it's character building. I think it's like to set the tone of like who these people are and what they do. Like that's Tuesday to this guy. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
Way to bring it back.
Nice hit. Late hit, man.
Nice. Yeah, I guess I don't think it lands that way. I mean, that might be what they intended, but it just seems like out of left field completely.
Yeah, and it also kind of like shows that he's like this child.
So right, like, but and then the other bad guys are like, "Oh my god, did you just say that?" Everybody's got that guy in the group, right? And if you don't know who that guy in your group is, James,
it's me.
You're the guy.
Well, and it's a Dr. Seuss book,
right? Well, I suppose we should also mention one of my favorite actors, James Coburn, is in this movie. He had a little bit of a run there in the 90s. Between this and Maverick and Payback and a bunch of other, little bit of a career renaissance there for him. He has this totally unconnected rant about communism at one point in the movie, and how much he misses communism because he got laid every night. And this is the problem with a lot of the dialogue. It had nothing to do with what came before it. It had no effect on the plot or what came after. It's just randomly thrown in there. And I thought it was hilarious myself.
It sets the CIA tone. Remember 91, Berlin Wall fell in 89. So
right.
The end of communism.
He's fantastic in this movie though. Even
over the top awesome.
It's almost like James, what are you doing in this movie? You're too good slumming it with Richard Grant and Sandra Bernhardt.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got a few more minutes here. There's a couple other topics I want to get into with you guys. And one of that is the science of one-liners, and specifically with Bruce Willis, because in my opinion, and I want to know what you guys think, less is more. And from what I've heard from Bruce, and I've heard Kevin Smith talk about this after working with him, as well as from a few other people, Bruce always thinks there needs to be more one-liners in a script for whatever movie he's in, whether that was Cop Out or Die Hard 4, I think was the other one Kevin worked with him on. He, again, was constantly rewriting and putting more one-liners in for himself here. I feel like there's 50 one-liners that his character gives in this movie, and it's like 47 too many.
Well, here's a build on that. It's like, I legitimately was watching this last night, and I am like, oh, I got to remember that. I got to remember that. I got to remember. Forgot all of them.
Right.
Every single one, because there's so many things. Like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. That
nothing sticks out because there's so many. And I don't know if this came, what I call the yippee-ki-yay effect. Like he had so much success with his little one-liners in Die Hard that he just felt like every movie he did from then on had to just be laced with them. But I think it's way overboard in this movie. Again,
there's so many that like so many of them go by and you don't even realize that just happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Like for every great one, like Bunny Ball, right at the end when he shoots the tennis ball of the dog out, or the one we talked about with Butterfinger. There's like slurp my butt, or I guess you won't be attending that hat convention in July. That are just like, oh, you're trying so hard.
Yeah.
I wrote that one down as that's got to be the worst line in the movie.
Well, yeah, I think it's clearly the worst one-liner, sure. But it's just, it reeks of we're trying really hard. And I think the less, the better. And, you know, Arnold was kind of the king of these one-liners, right? And he kind of figured it out. Like early in his career, like in Running Man and Commando, there was like 20 of them and it was too much. But by the time you get to like True Lies, he doesn't have one the whole movie until the end when the guy's hanging on the missile and he goes, "You're fired," right? And that's like the only one in the whole thing, and everybody remembers it.
Well,
so
I think he did so many one-liners early in his career because they had a hard time getting him to string together 5 words that we could all understand.
That's a fair point.
It's a fair point. I think Bruce needed to stay away from the writing room, and he's all over this movie. I feel like here's a perfect example of how I think, or why I think Bruce Willis should never again ever touch a screenplay or be part of it. How many times in this movie did people escape by jumping off of a roof or out a window and falling many, many stories and surviving?
Right.
How many? Let's see.
All of them.
We've got the first robbery, right? We've got
Right.
the two of them faking their fight and falling down to go get in the other ambulance, right? That was multiple stories. Then you had them jumping out of the window when the bomb was going to go off after they were paralyzed, right?
Yes.
And then you had James Coburn doing a flying karate kick off the top of a castle, landing onto a hood of a car and not dying, right?
And the car
Yeah.
itself
The car itself.
careening off the cliff and exploding and on fire,
And
but it had
exploding.
airbags and sprinkler systems.
Can you believe it?
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I feel like every time so here's my invitation to Bruce Willis in a writing room. All right, Bruce, I'm I don't know. We got these guys in this situation. We got to figure out how to get them out of the room. I'm not really sure what we're going to do. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to jump off the roof. Now, Bruce, we can't jump off the roof in every scene. That's not...
All right, out the window.
All right. Right, exactly. He's like, no, look, we're upstairs. We're on a balcony. We can't do it. We can't do that. What are we going to do? I don't know. It sounds like they should just jump off. Bruce! I mean, how many times can you use the same solution?
Can we go back to the Die Hard movies and count how many times that happened in those movies as well?
I suppose maybe that's where it all comes from, right?
Maybe.
But he didn't. I mean, in that case, at least in Die Hard, they tied a fire hose around him. So there was
Right.
some plausible
Yeah.
reason why he would survive.
Yeah, that awning at the beginning of the movie, that's not going to help. Especially
It's,
with
but it's a
two
special
guys?
awning with
Well,
a living room under it. Remember, it's
Right.
a completely special awning.
Right. It actually teleports you into the office.
Right.
Oh well, yeah. Then you're fine. And Danny Aiello goes somewhere else. He gets a different office.
Right. Yeah,
That's
where did
true.
he go? Where did he go? Oh, man.
The teeth guy cut. The teeth guy cut will explain all of these questions.
All right, well, before we move on to our final segment, which is awards, I do want to mention the one villain we forgot to mention, which is Super Knife Butler guy. I don't know what his name is.
Yeah,
He
I
lost
mean,
his head.
if he didn't have the
He
knives
really
on his
lost
arms,
his head.
completely forgettable.
What's that, Brady?
Without the knives on his arms, mostly forgettable.
Yeah, but how did the knives work? That's what I want to know, because I feels like
Springs.
physics-wise, they're too long to fit where they supposedly fit, right?
Yeah.
I think this is the wrong movie to be asking
Art.
physics questions.
Because he has like broadswords inside of his suit jacket, right? I mean, that thing is enormous, and it folds in sideways. So how does it do that and still come back in? It just doesn't make any sense.
Here's the thing: great performance by that guy.
Yeah.
Do you remember his name?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we were
completely
supposed to.
forgettable.
No. Yeah.
He had in this movie. He has such a good performance that he's forgettable. He blends in with the he's scenery.
It's true.
It's very sad. Even though he's very just central to like the ending of the movie.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, let's get into the awards, guys. What we generally do here at the end of our show is give some of these movies that are considered bad, although we enjoy them, the flowers that they didn't get from the critics and people when the movies came out. So we're going to start with top 3 performances. So I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think, and Clint, you can go first. Who do you think were the top 3 performances in this movie?
Andy McDowell, just for being gorgeous.
Okay.
Bruce Willis and his partner from the bar comes pick him up in the car with the Uncle Buck exhaust explosion. Aiello.
Danny, got it.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
Danny's number 1 to you?
Yeah, he's the bomb.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, he needed to be more. You hit on it at the beginning. They needed to be together more on screen.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. What do you got, Brady?
I will also go Danny Aiello for number one. This might be his best movie.
Yeah.
Of course, I've not seen a whole lot of Danny Aiello movies, but good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say that I really enjoyed Andie MacDowell in the scene where she's drugged and she starts doing dolphin noises.
Yes. How did we not talk about that?
I don't know.
Bobo knows.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
That scene just gets me every time.
Yeah, I didn't love her performance, but I do love that scene. Is hilarious.
Yeah.
Who's your number 3?
Number 3? I don't know. Like saying Bruce Willis is too easy. I don't want to go there.
That's why I did it.
Because he's whatever.
Yeah.
I want to say I really enjoy Snickers.
All right.
I don't know why.
Okay. I like Snickers. I like Kit Kat. The only moment of Kit Kat, I don't understand why he copies people, but I did like the one moment when he was copying Bruce. I thought that was great.
He gets hit in the face with a backhand, and he's just like, yeah. I get that.
How's that coming?
Well, my top 3, at number 3, I had James Coburn, just based almost exclusively off of his communism, his very short communism speech, which was funny to me. At number 2, I've got Bunny the dog. I thought Bunny the dog was better than just about almost anybody in this movie. And number 1, who I'm also going to give the Will Patton Award to. Will Patton Award is for that guy that didn't have as much screen time, but really just absolutely went for it and brought the heat. And that's Danny Aiello. I think we all had him at number 1.
Yeah.
So that's a great performance from him. And the only other movie that I thought of immediately for him was Do the Right Thing. I don't know if you've seen that, where he was the pizza shop owner. And he's great in that too.
Wasn't that also 91?
That was 89, so it's just 2 years before this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, perfect. And let's talk about my favorite subject, breaking down movie quotes. I've been doing it for so many years, and it's what I do on YouTube, and it's my favorite thing to do in the spare time. Let's talk about top 5 quotes. So I'm going to go through these. And if you guys have any that didn't end up on this top 5, feel free to throw them in there afterwards. Sound good? But at number 5, I did have Andie MacDowell's loopy rant, and I must talk to the dolphins now. I'm not going to try and do it because I can't get up there, but
no,
I had that at number 5. At number 4, when Bruce Willis responds to them talking about robbing the Louvre in France, he says, opposed to the Louvre in Wisconsin.
I wrote that down as well. But I also think the follow-up line is also genius.
Yes, what was it?
Shut up, you're going to make me lose my place.
That's right.
Like he had a speech prepared and he's going through the bullet points.
Yeah, and as Wisconsinites, we don't get a lot of shout-outs. The only I can think of this one or in Stripes, right, where he says, going into Czechoslovakia is like going into Wisconsin. Right? Number 3, I had Coburn's communism speech, right? So we already kind of touched on that. At number 2, I had another one-liner when he said, we're even going to kill the girl you took to the prom. And he says, Betty Jo Biarski? I can get you an address on that if you want.
That's a good one.
What I have for number 1. My number 1 is this little speech from Danny when he reveals himself as working with the Mayflowers. And I just thought it's the best piece of acting in the entire movie. And here it is.
I know what you're talking about.
I hated cigarettes until I saw my first no smoking sign. Keep off the grass. Let's play soccer. The only law I cared for was friendship. I broke that one too, didn't I?
Yeah. So any of them that I didn't touch on that you guys thought should be in the top 5?
Like I said, I don't know if it's because I watched it so long ago and then I was pretty tired already last night, but it's like every single piece of this movie that I wanted to hang on to, I seem to have forgotten. And I'm stuck with, just for whatever reason, this Darwin Mayflower character at the end when they're dying. He reminds me of Midas from Fortnite. I don't know why, but like the physical attributes and the gold-bathed explosion of their alchemy experiment gone wrong.
pretty nasty death, I thought.
That was good, both of them.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it was a bit gory for this movie.
that's what I'm saying. They decapitated the butler and then melted the other two, and I thought,
Yeah.
wow, it didn't really fit, but it was really cool, I thought. What do you got? Any other quotes for the top 5, Brady, that you got?
As I mentioned previously, Catholic girls are scary.
Yes.
That's a great line, especially the timing in that scene. And also, off the top of the movie, I want to teach the handicapped how to yodel.
Yes, I forgot. Oh, see, because it's so early in the movie, I had forgotten about it. Great line.
It is a great line.
Along with goat cheese pizza. Like, I don't know what that is. So there's two more questions. Two more questions I want to ask you guys before we wrap up here. One, should Hudson Hawk be remade today?
Who would star in that?
I don't think you can.
No?
Well,
I think you could, and you'd end up with like a generic action movie that's completely forgettable, or you end up with a comedy that's not as good as the original.
the question is, can we do it for $50,000 and make money? That's the question.
Oh, you want us to remake it?
Yeah, I mean, what the heck? What's the difference?
I guess.
I mean,
Give me $50,000, sure.
I think if they did it, and they did it like the way that I thought this movie would have been better, like we talked about, just focusing on him and his buddy and doing the cat burglaries and, you know, maybe taking one component out of the, like, there's so many villains and bad guys and crisscrossing and double crossing, and it was just a little bit confusing. I think they could do it. I think
if you split it down like that, you end up with something looking like Ocean's 10, 11,
Maybe.
12, 55.
But I think you take Bruce Willis and you put him in the Danny Aiello part, right? He's the older buddy of whoever the
Just
now
getting out of
is.
prison.
Right, exactly. And then you recast Hudson Hawk with, like, I don't know, somebody that can be like snarky and smarmy and still kind of likable. And so I don't know who that younger guy is right now. Maybe Chris Pratt, somebody like that can have a little bit of a bite to him. But I think it could be a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to. I would pay some money to see it. I'm just saying that I don't know if it can surpass or even live up to the original. But I hold this movie in very high regard. So
Right.
Yeah, we look at
That's
stuff
just
like
me.
that too. But, you know, when we were kids, you go back to nostalgia a little bit and everything. It's like we saw probably 30 movies a summer, you know, and that
Right.
wasn't all of them. That was just the ones that the picture grabbed us and we watched.
Right.
You know, I'm totally okay with these type of movies, and I love these bad movies because it's like they're not bad. They weren't blockbusters. I think everybody's trying to put out a blockbuster Aces movie.
Yeah.
If it doesn't do $100 million, it's a failure, and everybody's huge budgets, huge action, huge everything from the start. I would rather see 30 different decent movies a year and have 20 more to watch at a later date that I didn't catch when they came out.
Yeah, well, they're talking about this in even Hollywood circles, right? The kind of the medium budget movie is gone, right? And and streaming is really the new home for those types of movies.
Yeah,
right?
I
And
guess
so-
that is where we're seeing these series, you know,
Right.
these well, I mean, think about too. You get a good story in your head and everything. Like, how do we get this story done in under 2 hours?
Right.
You know, and you have nonstop action or a wasted half hour of character building by the kids' definition. So that's where we see the Jean-Claude Van Johnson series or whatever else, you know, an entire series of this idea.
Well, maybe then Hudson Hawk is remade as a 10-part Amazon Prime series or something
And
like
go.
that. There you go. All right, my final
down for
question
that.
for you guys before we head off and into the sunset, into our next adventure, which I think is going to be Suburban Commando. We're going to go straight diving into a Hulk Hogan movie, so I can't wait for that. But if you guys were in the CIA, what would be your candy bar code name?
Wow. I think I just wouldn't be an actual candy. I'd be Nutty Bars. Just those things are good.
You'd be a Little Debbie.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Nutty Bar.
I'm going to go obscure because it's a cool name. Plus, it's my favorite candy bar.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Zero.
Then we should be Chunky.
I thought about saying Babe Ruth and just be dressed like Babe Ruth all the time. Would be very stupid, but I just kept thinking of Zagnut. So I'm going to go.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Cool code name.
I'm going to go with Zagnut. So,
well, as you two know, our sound guy, Mel Vandy, could not be with us again today, but he did record his thoughts on Hudson Hawk, so we're going to play those right now, especially after last week how much he hated Street Fighter. I can't imagine he loved this one. So let's hear another rendition of Vandy's rants.
Oh, Hudson Hawk. You know, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. And right now, I wish I'd kept that absence with Hudson Hawk. A supposed comedy that tries to blend the Da Vinci Code with a film noir, sprinkle with some zany one-liners and cartoonish comedy, including the Saturday morning sound effects. I should love this movie with that setup alone, but one tiny thing stops this movie from being good, and that's the end product. Bruce Willis is a legend, but his performance as Hudson Hawk was funnier when he wasn't trying to be funny. Let's talk hateable duos. Hudson Hawk and Tommy Five Tone, what a stupid nickname that is, are the worst cat burglars since Watergate. They go through great lengths of traversing buildings with rope, yet they run around dancing and singing show tunes. These guys memorize the runtime of songs to time out their heists like some sort of Dick Clark meets Rain Man mashup. We get it. You guys are different. Well, different isn't always useful. You don't see people making hammers out of glass. There's a reason for it. First of all, neither of them can sing, and then we're supposed to expect that their timing is impeccable. They never speed up and slow down. They just randomly guess the amount of time it's going to take to steal the crown jewels, and they get a big band finish chorus kick line going. I have no idea why this supposed internationally known thieving duo can't grab anything without getting caught as they're crooning like Sinatra stomping on a dog's. Speaking of Sinatra, did you know that Bruce Willis was not even supposed to be John McClane in Die Hard? This relates here, so give me a moment. Die Hard was a sequel to The Detective, starring none other than Frank Sinatra. Detective Joe Leland became John McClane. Klaxon Oil became Nakatomi Plaza. Nothing Lasts Forever became Die Hard, and the rest is history. Now, I know you're picturing it. Frank Sinatra saying yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. They didn't think Bruce Willis could pull off action and suspense, since he got a start in comedy on the TV series Moonlighting. For being a supposed comedic actor, he thrived as the working man action hero type. The Expendables, The Last Boy Scout, Die Hard 1 through 20, Pulp Fiction, 12 Monkeys, Armageddon, Unbreakable, The Fifth Element. I could go on and on. Okay, back to Burglary, the musical. So Hudson has a run-in with the Mario Brothers. The Mario Brothers are the third largest crime family in New Jersey. Not some stereotypical Italian turbo time plumbers who like to crawl around the sewers and stalk princesses while getting hopped up on magic mushrooms. Sadly, neither one of them grew tails or spit fireballs. I think the plumbing Mario Brothers would have been more enjoyable than the discount version of Stallone and Goomba number 2. Alright, let's move on to Darwin Mayflower and Minerva. Some f***ing classy names right there. Eccentric and weird? Okay, I get it. They're the bad guys, so we're supposed to hate them. But they're not just hateable. They are complete and utter dog as villains. Darwin's supposed to be a classic crazy bad guy. He's unhinged, so we don't know what's going to happen next. Yawn. World domination? Yeah, okay. He's easily overshadowed on the piece of meter, though, by his wife Minerva, who really gets on my nervas. Sandra Bernhardt is the on-screen equivalent of a prostate check and shoving broken glass up your medically, of course. She's supposed to be hated because of her performance as a bad character. Yet, I kind of wish Richard Simmons would have been casted instead. He's eccentric and frankly would have scared the out of me as Minerva. Minerva sounds like a medication a woman gets in her 40s for her so I won't on the entire movie. There are some likable one-liners, and Hudson throwing exact change as the ambulance cot rolls through a toll booth is pretty good. Hell, I even like the loose ties to history, the incompetence of government agents, all great stuff. The overall storyline isn't half bad either, but the Hudson Hawk needs to be sent back up the river to Sing Sing for this. Overall, I give it a 2, as in the number 2. I tried really hard to like it. I love Bruce Willis, but he doesn't have the straight man delivery this part needed. Hell, Richard Simmons would have probably been great as the Hudson Hawk. At least he knows his show tunes. Andy McDowell. I cannot say any unkind words about her and her performance. But Sandra Bernhardt, her in her stupid face. I'm glad I took my blood pressure medicine today.
Man, does Mel like anything? Honestly, he needs to be in here for the next episode so we can actually talk to him about this. I'm concerned.
Well, thank you for joining us, guys. So we're going to be back soon here with another episode. But thanks to Brady for coming in all the way from Omaha,
Hell
Nebraska.
of a commute, buddy.
Hello. You got here in a very short amount of time. But can't wait to have you back in the future. And to everybody that's listening, if you could do us a big favor, subscribe to the podcast wherever you found it. We're on all of the places you can find podcasts. If you could subscribe, that would be great. If you could tell a friend, share it with a friend, that would mean a lot to us. And finally, if you could go on and leave us a review. Every 5-star review we get on iTunes or any other place does a lot for us. So if you could do that, we'd very much appreciate it. And thank you very much for listening. We'll be back with another episode of Bad Movies Rule. See you later. That was pretty good. We'll try not to suck next time.
We can hire people to do that part.
That's right.